Hey guys, welcome to another video. Now, I wasn't planning on uploading today, however, I wanted to cover all of the new Star Wars gaming news we've gotten following yesterday's big revelation. So, I've thrown together a video, also some new Dark Forces footage which you may enjoy. However, after this goes live, almost right after, we will be celebrating 1 million subscribers on the Eckhart's Ladder channel over on my gaming channel, X2. Those streams are usually pretty low-key. We'll have some beers, we'll play some Mario Kart. If you want to stop by, leave a message, crush some beers, link down below. Roll the intro. Hey guys, this is Justin. Hello and welcome to another video. So we are continuing today our coverage of what I'll honestly call the breaking Star Wars video game news we've seen emerge over the past 24 hours. It all started yesterday when we learned that EA, as with many other gaming companies in 2024, would be affecting massive layoffs and undergoing a restructuring. EA will apparently be moving away from licensed games and has also, we've now learned, ceased production on Respawn's upcoming Star Wars FPS game, which we learned last week would be bounty hunting and Mandalorian focused. So I'm going to get you guys up to date on recent news, including the fate of other Star Wars games in development, plus what we've learned now about that Mandalorian game. At the end of the video too, I may also throw in my thoughts on the most recent Bad Batch episode if you are interested. All right, let's get started with another bit of breaking Star Wars news, and this one is fairly consequential. Today, Jason Schreier of Bloomberg posted a new article detailing that Saber Interactive would be leaving Embracer in a private buyout. Why is this noteworthy? Well, Saber Interactive is the company working, at least supposedly, on the Star Wars Knights of the Old Republic remake. Now, this is a game which has been through the ringer, initially under the development of Aspire Media, moved sort of to the general Embracer Group umbrella, as there were apparently some pretty serious difficulties in early production. Saber Interactive then took up work on the project, and now apparently that they're leaving Embracer, the KOTOR remake is leaving with them. I'm not quite sure the legalities of that. It's very early days, so we're going off a little bit of reporting here. Maybe the rights to work on the project were a part of the buyout. I don't know. Either way, if I were to bet on whether this is good or not for the potential of KOTOR releasing, I'd say right now it probably better than things were. Honestly, I have so little faith in this KOTOR remake. It seems like we hear bad news stories about it all the time, which is surprising because it seems like just honestly an easy home run. But the reason why I think overall today's news is good is simply because it's moving from a company worth billions to one worth obviously several hundred millions. Embracer Group owns just many large companies: Gearbox, Dark Horse, THQ. They can afford to scuttle a game and shuffle around resources and personnel if opportunity cost dictates that those resources are better served elsewhere. I'm not sure a company as sort of new and comparatively small as the $500 million Saber Interactive with several thousand employees versus tens of thousands has the same sort of freedom to completely trash something when tons of resources have been put into it. Again, I know nothing really on an expert level about the gaming industry. That just seems like a common sense take to me, but it also depends where this KOTOR game is in development. There's also the sunk cost fallacy. You can't let how much effort you've put into something determine smart use of resources moving forward. But just generally, I've got no positive feelings towards Embracer Group. When I think of Saber, honestly, I just think of the work they did on the Master Chief Collection, but let's move on. After processing the cancellation of the Respawn Star Wars FPS, my other major question was, okay, what about the other Star Wars games that EA is working on? We know that the Jedi series is apparently, at least for one more game, alive. I've got zero doubts that Star Wars Galaxy of Heroes, which is an absolute money train for the company, will also keep running. That leaves the Bit Reactor strategy game. Now, we know very little about this, other than that it's a collaboration between Respawn and Bit Reactor, which is a strategy game game-focused development studio, and that it will be published by EA. EA was explicit in the canning of the Star Wars FPS game. The Bit Reactor game has had no direct mention from company officials as of yet. My friend 100% Star Wars tweeted and said, with Respawn's FPS cancelled, some sources close to EA have told me Bit Reactor's Star Wars strategy game and their employees have not been affected by EA's changes. As of now, Bit Reactor's strategy game is still in development. Some good news at least. Obviously, your mileage will vary when assessing the credibility of that tweet. I talked to 100% Star Wars and I feel like he wishes he could say more, but he can't. I will say we probably would have heard from employees at least if the game had been canceled, which takes me to my next point. We've started to learn a little bit more about Respawn's canceled FPS game. It seems like some of the tweets that I was reading earlier today have been scrubbed from the internet, and that's probably because they were talking a little bit about the sort of internal team discussions and just generally how everyone was very, very excited for the upcoming FPS game and how it was generally a highlight of internal presentations. Additionally, Tom Henderson, who I find to be pretty credible, posted an article on his site Insider Gaming, the same outlet, by the way, which actually posted the first details of the game, i.e. that it'd be a Mandalorian-focused bounty hunting game, and talked a bit more about what the game would have looked like. I'll link to his article down below. He opens by talking about how it was fantastic. Everyone who had the opportunity to play it really enjoyed it, but he then goes on to talk a bit more about specifics. First of all, this wasn't the Mandalorian, it was a Mandalorian bounty hunter. The game would have started with what he calls the Den, which is a base of operations for the player containing, and I quote, your ship, a map of the galaxy, an upgrade station, an armory, and more. It's understood that it would be here where you would select which bounties you'd want to pursue. The player could then equip the weapons they wanted, upgrade their armor, and then go into the ship and land on the planet where the bounty is located. Now, it continues saying these weren't complete open worlds, rather they were linear experiences. It kind of reminds me in a way of like the original Demon's Souls, which is pretty cool. And as he mentioned in the first article, one big aspect would be mobility. Anyway, there are a few more details about the status of the game and more in his article, so I'll link to that down below. But I mean, by all means, this sounded pretty cool. One thing I've also heard is that one of the reasons why these games keep getting canceled is simply due to how expensive it is to work with the Star Wars brand, meaning that you have to sell several times more units to make the same amount of money, which is inherently risky, especially when you also have to work with Lucasfilm, who probably have certain veto power when it comes to story decisions, gameplay decisions, and more. We heard about this when Star Wars Battlefront 2 came out, where Lucasfilm explicitly prohibited, for example, good guys flying in bad guy vehicles. Anyway, just an overall really sad couple of days for video gaming news, for Star Wars fans. It sucks, most of all, that so many people are out of a job, and as I mentioned in the last video, it's not just EA, it's Sony, it's Microsoft, it's all of these companies facing massive downsizing, resulting in thousands of people out on the job market. But that's really all I have to say about the video game news. I was hoping to do a bit of a Bad Batch breakdown, but this video has gone pretty long. I'll just say I really enjoyed episode 4 of the final season. I've already seen a few complaints about it being fillery, which to me is really odd. Like, it moved the story forward in a super substantial way. Where they are at the beginning of the episode could not really be further from where they are at the end. The show also continues to be beautiful. I like the emotional moments. I think it was great as well to have an episode focused solely on Crosshair and Omega. Crosshair is still one of the more interesting characters in the show, and I'm curious to see how he operates with the crew moving forward. I know it's a really basic rundown, but I quite enjoyed the episode. If you want to see a full breakdown, we did that over on my podcast, Tapcraft Transmissions. The audio version will be dropping in a couple of days, but if you want to watch the full version right now, you can go to Corey's channel, which is Corey's Datapad. Until next time, be safe, have a good one. May the Force be with you. Bye-bye.